And now, it's Ultimate Combat Radio with your host, Mike Stidham on 1280 and 97.5. The Zone, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA.
Welcome to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here, talking a little mixed martial arts. It is Friday, the 14th of October, 2011 on 1280 The Zone. And joining me on the program is, of course, our crack team of MMA professionals, the Kaiser. Kaiser, how you doing, my man?
I'm tip-top, Mike. How's it going?
You're looking tip-top, new do and everything. Looking good, my man. Robertina, the MMA babe, here to bring some babedness to the show. How are you doing, young lady?
So good.
Man.
Better than last week, I hope.
Much. I'm not sick anymore.
Quit kissing so many strange boys and you're good to go.
Don't tell me what to do.
All right. And, of course, Big Joe Martinez. Joe, our UFC aficionado. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good. How you doing, Mike?
A lot of good stuff going on in the UFC, right?
Oh, there's so much stuff going on.
Yes. We're going to get to that. This segment is brought to you by the Ultimate Combat Training Center in Draper, as well as Mushin Self-Defense in North Salt Lake. Brandon, anything cool going on at Mushin?
We're down to 2 weeks before a big fight event where it's basically Mushin against the world, and we're the timing of the training is perfect.
That's good. Well, we are exactly the polar opposite of that. None of our fighters are showing up to the gym, except for Big Joe over there. Me. And Joe's just mad because maybe once we'll get like one guy come in and every now and then, and Joe gets to punch him in the face.
Joe, when are you going to fight again, man?
I need some training partners before I can fight.
We need to get him going. All right. Well, I want to kind of bring up the badass of the week as part of this segment because we got a kid that comes into my gym, and I don't want to use his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he first came into my gym. The kid wouldn't even look you in the eye, and I think you know what I'm talking about, Joe.
Yeah, I do.
It was really kind of awkward when the kid would come in. He's not an athletic kid. He's not a kid that things come naturally to at all. And for some reason, he told his mom, he says, I want to box. And his mom got online and found a boxing gym, found us, and ended up bringing him in. And she thought there was no way he was going to last the hour, let alone after that. He wouldn't let his mom stay and watch him. You know, she had to leave. And the kid, and mind you, our boxing team is tough. We've got some good little boxers out there. And this kid spars with them every day. And now the kid comes in, looks you in the eye, smiles when he's coming in, smiles when he's leaving. And it's been really an awesome transformation. So
I got to tell you, the first time he came in, I remember he was going to start getting in your kickboxing class too. And he grabbed a jump rope and he started jump roping. He wasn't very good at it. You know, it's hard.
He couldn't jump one time.
He couldn't do it. And he left. But you watch him now, and he's over there doing, he looks like a pro over there. So it's just awesome seeing him do it.
It's been a lot of fun to watch that happen, you know. And I see him leaving with bloody noses sometimes because these boxers, they train hard, you know. And he gets in with them, and he's got a bloody nose and a big smile on his face, you know.
Yeah,
and
he's loving it.
It's been cool to watch it. So that's why we do what we do at the gym. You know, really, it's stories like that because this kid really, I think, it's had such a profound effect on him that, you know, he's never going to be the same kid in a positive way.
Combat sports has that kind of transformation in people faster than any other sport I've ever seen. Whether it's wrestling, boxing, martial arts.
Because you have to test yourself. Every day is a test with yourself. It's a battle just to walk into the gym, you know, to overcome that fear. And I think your gym, I'm sure, have similar stories like that. But this kid was just so profound. And I've been doing this 20 years that I'd never seen a kid with the transformation that he's had in the amount of time.
He's so confident now. I know what you're talking about now.
He's cool. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, let's talk about the poll question of the week. We kind of touched on this last week. And in fact, the guy from MMA Junkie, George, he gave us the idea. He said, you know, who is on your MMA Mt. Rushmore? And I thought that was a pretty provoking pretty provoking question because there are so many. And last week, I kind of off the top of my head, I said Ariane Celeste, of course, you know. She looks so good. And Dana White, he comes to the top of your mind. And then Lonnie Foster, and I said flippantly Bill Colbert. So I've given much thought to this, and I've changed my vote. And I really want to kind of, because I really took this seriously. I want to kind of talk about it. I think Ariane Celeste gets replaced. Believe it or not, she gets replaced, but by Gina Carano. And I'm not doing it just because Gina Carano's hot. I think she has been an ambassador for the women's part of MMA, and she's bright, she's articulate, and she's just hot as hell. So I put her up on there, and she just blazed the trail. And of course, I think it's really interesting because this question's been posed nationally on some of the web forums and kind of stuff like that. And either you want Dana White on there or you really don't want him on there. A lot of guys that just hate the guy, and I don't really understand why. He's certainly on my list, and if he's not on your list, I don't think you understand the business because the fighters couldn't do what they do if Dana hadn't done what he's done. And I don't think people really realize how much his efforts have gone into keeping this sport around. This sport would really be a trivial side note, a circus sideshow, if you will, because that's the way it was headed. That's what the Art Davies and those guys, when they first started the UFC, it wasn't going to last. It just wasn't. It was being outlawed everywhere. And, Dana White took it from that tough man-esque that was just appealing to a small niche of people, and really now we've got a sport that's becoming a worldwide sport. I think you would be remiss to have a Mount Rushmore without Hoist Gracie, and I say Hoist Gracie because he represents the entire Gracie clan. You have to say the Gracies started all of this, and to not agree with that again, I think you're really kind of missing what happened in the early days. Hoist Gracie made every 155-pound kid believe he could beat a giant, and he did. He hung with those guys, and so I think he has to be the face of the sport. Now, I really struggled with the fourth person on there because I think you've got a fighter representation. I think you've got somebody in management representation. And I think you've got the female fighter. And I really wanted to try to see who else makes this stuff happen. There's a lot of support staff that makes the sport grow. And if you think about it, if you talk to any fighter who they interact with at UFC, Joe Silva. And he's the guy that makes the matchups. He's the guy that puts things together. I didn't pick him, though. Mark Ratner was the guy. He was at the Nevada Athletic Commission. He's now come over to the UFC, left Nevada Athletic Commission to be their compliance officer, if you will. Everywhere they go, they make sure that they're meeting legal standards for that area. And he does a lot behind the scenes, and he's done a lot to help develop new rules and that kind of thing that's going to help keep the sport around. I didn't pick him either. I finally settled in on Big John McCarthy because he's the face. He's the face of MMA, and I don't think people realize he undercame a great deal of scrutiny at the LAPD when this first started. I mean, a lot of people didn't like what he did, and he stuck with it. And he's still to this day, he's out doing seminars and refereeing and judging, and he's kind of set the standard for that.
He was a big part of the rulemaking process.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
When it first started getting sanctioned.
So I think you put Big John McCarthy up there. Those are my four.
I like it.
You like it? What do you say? What do you say, Brandon?
I agree with some, and I disagree with others.
Well,
I'm excited to weigh in.
Here's the honest thing. The great thing about this, there's four of us. There are four segments tonight. We're all going to get our chance to pitch our Mount Rushmore, if you will, and I'd love to have our listeners weigh in on this because I really think maybe we're missing some stuff. So, Robertina, how would they weigh in on this if they were so inclined?
They can call us at 405 or 670-1280. Text us at 53318. Text in zone and then your four choices. Or Facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio.
And you're going to be checking Facebook to see if we got any cool stuff.
Okay,
all right, good stuff. So, in no particular order, Gina Carano, Dana White, Hoist Gracie, and Big John McCarthy. Those are my guys. Let's talk about some local news. Tomorrow night, Total Mayhem in Ogden. Mike Crispin versus Micah Rent is the main event there. And then coming up on the 28th here in Salt Lake City at the Complex, Steel Fist. The show you mentioned that all the Mushin guys are going to be in, but your main event features the Bird Dog versus JTS.
Is Kensei fighting tomorrow night on the
Kensei is fighting tomorrow, yep. The only interesting fight on the card, in my opinion.
Who's he fighting?
Don't know.
Did he peak at the right time?
Let's hope he peaked at the right time, and I'm excited to say that this fight is at the weight where Kensei really belongs to be fighting, which is at 125.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. All right, so coming up on the program, we'll be catching up with UFC super stud and local hero Ramsey Nijum. That'll be a next segment, and in fact, the UFC has promised to send us a fighter each and every week, and Ramsey's fighting on the 28th, I believe, or 29th?
Yes, UFC 137.
Yeah, so they said, hey, you got to talk to this guy, man. He's an up-and-comer, and they feel real good about him. So they lined that up for us. And then I want to be talking to we're going to talk to Joe about what's going on in the UFC. And there's a lot of stuff hanging in there. He's next on the list, sister. Thank you very much. And, of course, right here in studio, Dr. Tim Goodwin's going to be joining us on the program. In fact, I'd like to have Tim, if you wouldn't mind quickly, since we don't have 5 segments, who would be on your Mount Rushmore? MMA Mount Rushmore, besides Josh Berkman.
Mike Stidham would definitely be way up there, too, in Salt Lake City.
And Tandy, I know you dig her.
That's a hard one. We were talking about Hoist Gracie today, and I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, because, when he fought that big 400-pound guy and, strangled him and did everything he did. And I'm a George St. Pierre fan, and I'm the newer kind of guys in that world, so I'd have to put George St. Pierre on there. And looking at it, there's a couple, I don't know, I think I like the lungs you have. I don't know. I'm a little torn on a lot of that decision. There's so many to pick from. That's all I can really say. There's so many to pick from.
There are a lot. You know what's interesting too is that it's such a brand new sport. Yet there already are all these heroes that you can really kind of hang your hat on. Of course, you've got Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. Those guys are obvious. They were faces of the sport. But again, I don't know if they ever would have been had the UFC not done what they did. Anyway, so that's my argument on that. But all right. Well, I appreciate you weighing in. If you want to, feel free to jump into the rest of the show. We'd love to have you. Now, what are we going to be talking about in the final segment with you?
Well, tonight we're going to talk about in the room any kind of questions you guys might have in here in general, because I can talk all day long. I've been seeing a lot of fighters lately that's showing up in my office, and I see more shoulder injuries than anything. So I definitely would like to talk a little bit about some shoulder injuries and stuff, some of the treatments that can be done to help with the shoulder injuries.
Why you think that's happening? What can we do to avoid it?
Well, that's the key. What can you do to avoid it? I think those little small exercises that we all forget to do, those little internal rotation and external rotations, but then it's not taking care of it when you have them. Most fighters try to fight through stuff, and I'm here to tell you rehab has to be part of the program, and if you can live for a long life in this deal here, you'll get better and stronger. But if you think something's going to go away on its own, it usually doesn't. So rehab, some kinesio tape, icing when you're sore, and backing off.
No, don't give it all away just yet, man. We're teasing you with that.
Yeah.
He said he could talk
on
on
a microphone. He'll go all day.
He will get going. So, all right, so stick around for that. We got a lot of great stuff. In fact, Ramsey Nigel when we come back.